Hey, where are all you folks from out there? We're waiting. We got 29 seconds to go. We're going to have a great show today, so tell us all where you're coming from. Hey guys, Terence here again. Another episode of Let's Talk Reef. We're doing it a little late tonight, but it is a Tuesday night. We had a couple of things that both Matt and I, Matt, my guest, we'll talk about in a minute, who had some things to do. So we're doing it a little bit later. So those of you on the East Coast that are doing this are kind of like 10 o'clock at night. So maybe it's even easier for you because you got all the kids to bed and it's all time for Reef Talk. And we're here to do it for you with Let's Talk Reef. Some of the things that are going on lately in the Neptune Systems world. Thank you for joining us, all of you who are the regulars. I see you out there. We've got Derek from Reef Automation. We've got Mark Waller. We've got Battle OCR. We've got just tons of people out there all joining us, really filling up the queue there of all the people joining us for a Let's Talk Reef episode. We're going to have a great one tonight. We're going to talk about a few different things that I know all of you guys are going to be interested in. It's not all about just the control freak gear for us on Let's Talk Reef. And when I do these, I kind of want to impart a lot of reef keeping knowledge on you guys and bring in guests and, just try to have a really cool reef keeping experience that, the Neptune Systems gear is part of. But it's about that passion. And part of that, a lot of people have a lot of questions around things like breeding. And there's things going on in the reef keeping industry right now, obviously with COVID. And one of the things too that's really interesting right now is the biggest, I would say, maybe the biggest, but close, certainly, arguably the biggest online store for fish and corals, LiveAquaria.com, was recently purchased. And our guest today is familiar with the online e-commerce world and fish and corals and all of that. So we're going to have a good conversation about that too. Some of the bummers for today are more news that the trade show circuit is dying over and over and over again for us this year because of COVID. I'm sure it's definitely for good reason. We all have to stay safe and, gathering together like we generally do, shoulder to shoulder at things like Reefapalooza, Aquashella, and MACNA. Probably not great for preventing the spread of communicable diseases. So it's probably for a real good reason. Most of the country feels that way, I'm sure. And we just had the Reefapalooza Chicago canceled. Reefapalooza Orlando was canceled, I think, a week or two ago. As it stands right now, and MACNA is obviously been canceled. Right now, I think there are 2 Aquashellas still on the calendar, which is Aquashella Chicago and Aquashella Dallas. Aquashella Dallas on October 31st, and the Chicago one in December sometime. I can't remember the date exactly. I'm sure Adam will skewer me for that. But we have those, and then there is I think the 12th and the 13th, 2 weeks before Christmas, there's still Reefapalooza in New York on the calendar for now. Who knows? But it is really a bummer because a lot of us really love in this hobby getting together, seeing familiar faces, meeting new people, and I really like getting out there with our whole crew, our entire Neptune Systems crew at all of these different areas around the country, and meeting the control freaks, all of you guys out there. So we got to do more and more of this virtual stuff until then, and definitely open to hearing from you guys. I have been known to drop in from time to time on our Facebook kind of chat room that we have. So if you haven't checked that out, you should. It's on Facebook in the official Neptune Systems community group, which if you're not a member yet, you should go out and join. We have a ton of people on here. Some of them are regulars out there on that group, but you can go in there. And I think what I'm going to do to start promoting that is I'll start give a little heads up, and we'll drop in there, and maybe guys like Matt and others will hop into, and we'll have some good conversations as if we were at these particular trade shows. Looks like I said, Derek is here, David Lagar, Matt Duarte. You guys get your questions ready for Matt, especially on things like breeding, fishes. I think he's going to correct me on that if I got that wrong. I probably didn't. I think I've listened to enough of these talks from them correcting people on how to pluralize fish and fishes, but but who knows? So we're gonna bring Matt on here in a second. Be sure to get your questions ready. We have a lot of good news coming on. By the way, can't tell you what it was, but some people in an NSI group had some great notifications go out today. And all of you that are on it, if you're on this stream, you got to keep it zipped, right? So definitely good stuff going on new products at Neptune Systems. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of questions now saying, how do I get to be a Neptune Systems insider? It's really something we only open up every year, maybe every 6 to 12 months, and we get a bunch of applications. We stick them into the hopper, the grinder, and depending on the answers to your questions and the project that we have going on, you get selected for a project, or you might get selected for one a little bit later on. Anyway, I think without further ado, we've got just about 100 people into the live stream now. Let's see if I can figure out this split shot and get it right with oh, look at me. I got to split down the face there. Got to get... Okay. So we've got Matt coming in on the... Oh, no, look. Hang on. I'll get it. Hang on. Go back to this one. Got to get Matt on the Skype here. I think Skype played a trick on me here. You guys hang tight with me. I think Skype turned off the NDI streaming, so I have to go to Skype and probably do some sort of magic in there. So if you guys will be very patient with me to go to preferences, to go to some advanced kind of thing, audio, video. Oh, man, I hate this when this happens. If anybody remembers where that is, it's actually the NDI sharing. And because I went long with FMAS today, it meant that that I didn't get all of the stuff I was supposed to be done with Matt. Matt's out there. I hear you, Matt. Right? Okay. So all you guys, bear with me. Come up with your questions while I'm figuring this out. Here it is. Advanced. Advanced. Allow NDI. There we go. And I can do things on the fly, not a problem. Split screen. We're going to pull in Matt. There's Matt. Do a little adjustment. Gosh, man. I don't get frazzled very easily, Matt. So for those of you that don't know Matt, this is Matt Pedersen. Matt Pedersen is the senior editor of Coral Magazine and Amazonas. Okay, so he's going to get a little plug right out of the gate there.
Thank you.
And try to stick your head in the middle of the frame as much as you can, so that way you're centered on there, Matt. Matt also speaks all over the place on various things, marine aquarium and breeding. He's involved in the MBI, which is, what does that stand for?
Marine Breeding Initiative.
Oh, that seems so logical, doesn't it? So he's involved with the Marine Breeding Initiative and runs minywaters.com when he has fish. We'll talk about that. But I really appreciate him coming on. I noticed on his Skype when I just added him today, it had been 9 months since we had done one of these, so it's fitting. I mean, that's a good time frame.
Yeah.
So how are things treating you in this whole COVID thing there?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks for everyone for hopping on and for having me on again, Terrence. We're doing great. I've been a remote employee for, I think, 15, 17 years now, so nothing changed for us, at least for me. My wife's a teacher. Her life was turned upside down. So,
yeah, it's definitely. I mean, as you know, my wife is an educator too. She does preschool and pre-K and all of that, and it's just nobody knows anything. It just changes every day by day. They're like figuring things out, right? It's like, what's going to happen?
We were supposed to find out yesterday what's going to happen, and they pushed it back. They said we need another 3 days here in Minnesota, and they're going to give their mandate. And I just bought a desk for my wife for a home office, so we're planning for being here. So
Yeah, it looks like it'll be there for a while. There's going to be a mixture, but
yep.
we'll all adapt. I was home for 5 weeks or so during COVID, 6 weeks during COVID. Was it? No, 3 months. Sorry. I can't even keep track of the time anymore. It's a crazy amount of time. I was like, 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
No, I was actually from, March 11th up until into June. So it was like crazy. But some people, can't. They have to come in. I mean, our employees for a month, month to 5 weeks, were not in the office. The ones that their only job can be done in the office, right? A lot of us, we can do it at home, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the way it goes. So how's things going with Coral Magazine? Do you guys still have enough subscribers?
Oh yeah, and enough advertisers. Thank you. So
yeah, so we do advertise, and
yes.
funny you should say that, because we don't advertise anywhere else. There is no other print publication that we advertise in, and there are a few, what I would call, like, what are they, biannual type, glossies or whatever that you'll find at Barnes and Noble or what have you. And we just don't find them interesting. We don't find the content that riveting or interesting, and the quality, right, of Coral Magazine is really good. And in a world where I don't really get that many magazines anymore, it is the one I really enjoy getting every time. And I know it sounds like oh, I'm just plugging Matt like crazy, but it really is. You guys put a lot of work into it, and it's great.
Well, and I'm happy to talk about it. I know that's really not what we were going to talk about today, but like this ICP issue right here that I have. This is the one that was out last, and we just have another one coming. I know what we're working on right now, and I'll just say algae and leave it at that. But the whole thing about coral, that for people who don't know, is that it starts as a German magazine, and Amazonas, the freshwater counterpart, is the same way. And we get that German edition. It gets all translated. We look at it. We say, oh, we like this article. This is good. This is new. Right. Or maybe we don't really like this one. Or, hey, this is one we did here that went over there. And then so it's always a mixture of new content coming from both European and here in the United States. So we always have that cover feature. And I remember when it first launched, I would get something. I can see it on the shelf right up above me. The Gorgonian issue is the perfect example. I got the Gorgonian issue and said, I don't give anything about Gorgonians. And I probably just threw it on the shelf. This is before I worked for Coral. I probably just threw it on the shelf and didn't read it, didn't look at it, like whatever. But then when I went to set up a Caribbean biotope tank, I pulled that off and I read it cover to cover 3 times. I mean, so any individual issue might not be that feature that connects with every single person who's reading it, but we're building this whole library of good content. And then it came up in another conversation yesterday. Just, it's curated content. There's so much content. We're making content right now. Right. We can't watch everything. We can't listen to everything. Right. If there's a lot of noise, there's a whole team of people who put Coral together, and they're all very veteran aquarists with really good, solid backgrounds. So you're getting reliable information in a very condensed format. And so I'm really proud that I was invited to be a part of it. And I mean, it's at this point, that and Amazonas are my bread and butter. They're my putting foods on my kids' table. So
awesome, man. Well,
thank you for everyone who's a subscriber. I appreciate it.
I'll tell you, because I don't mind talking about this. This is not, when we have a Let's Talk Reef, we're talking Reef. So Coral Magazine is part of Reef, part of Reef Keeping. So it's fine to talk about Coral Magazine. I'll tell you, my feeling on the magazine, and I know a lot of people put a lot of time, in yourself included, into writing articles, and we've had our own one-on-one discussions over the telephone about articles and content and whatnot. But I'll tell you, the one thing that keeps it, for me, over the top is the photography. The photography is what makes or breaks a magazine like that, because, there's lots of, I can go read forums, I can go read all kinds of online articles and whatnot, and it's writing and it's articles, right? And I can go see images online and see them on my computer and whatnot, but no matter what, there is just something about a beautiful, glossy macro image of like a pygmy seahorse, in its natural habitat or whatever it may be. And you can just sit there in your office or wherever and just away from your computer and chill and gel and just go, wow, that's awesome. And turn the page and see another zoomed in coral and go, wow, that's awesome. And you can dig around online, but it's not the same. It's not the same. So
no, it's the bulk of our subscribers, everyone gets a digital subscription at any level. But I can tell you with Amazonas, I think it's like 85% are still print.
Yeah, I don't look at anything online for Coral Magazine.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's
No,
not
you
why
don't
I
need
get
to.
it. It's not why I get it. There's plenty of outlets online. I get it, and I'm like, oh, this
No,
is, you know.
I love. There's this one part for people who care. I don't know if this will translate, but right here on the table of contents, that part right there, elemental chlorine free, sustainable forestry initiative paper stock. That plastic bag that it comes in, you can recycle that anywhere.
Okay.
You can recycle paper bags. So, you know, we hear all these things, oh, print is dying, or print is this, or print is that. And I think we do absolutely the best we can with print. Those print copies cost a lot of money to make. They're not cheap. So.
Yeah. Well, I know what the advertising costs, so so I can imagine. So, all right, so that's still going for sure. So, really, I mean, the meat of what I wanted to discuss, right? I mean, first and foremost, what can you think of in the last 2 to 3 years that's really been, and this is not any setup for anything from us, so please don't pander to me on anything, but in the last 2 to 3 years in reef keeping, what has really made the difference for you, or have you seen that's made a complete difference, say from the 2 to 3 or the 6 to 8 years before that, right? In terms of, and not just who's in the hobby, but how people can become successful, or the cost, or whatever you think.
I think we are seeing the fulfillment of the promise of captive breeding.
Okay.
You know, that stands out. You know, we're seeing captive bred purple tangs right now coming into the country, being available. 10 years ago, that was still a pipe dream. So, you know, bar none, the diversity of what people are producing, hearing people talking about, I can go have a conversation with a prospective breeder right now and say, really just pick something no one else is doing. Be the RAS guy, or focus on tangs. If you have figured out how to really do tangs, start producing, you know, the all the rare tangs, the gems, the polynosa, or however you say it, you know, all these different tangs that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You can leverage that technology. That's the beautiful thing about breeding fish, is once you crack a genus, the next one in the genus might not be identical, but it's going to be very similar. So
like working
that's
on,
why
it's like working on a Mustang, or working on a you know, you're working on a Mustang, or you're working on what's the one from Mercury? The Mercury. Shoot, my mom had one of them. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. It's just, it's the same.
But yeah,
it's like it's the same thing, more or less. It's just got a little bit difference in the fish. You know, like a yellow tang and a purple tang. They're pretty much the same fish, just different colors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a
No,
pedestrian
I
way of saying it, but
no, we might come to find out that there's some little idiosyncrasy. But we're also at that point where a lot of these breakthroughs have kind of, you know, back when I started breeding, there was still a lot of things a hobbyist could do. But I think it kind of shifted back to being, you need that commercial scale enterprise behind you. But people are paying for it. They're willing to support it with their wallets.
You think so?
You know, so I mean, I'm seeing it. I mean, and part of it is also
sustainable,
just the
has to be
availability
sustainable
of things.
two ways. It's kind of a double,
especially right now.
I mean, sustainable is kind of a double entendre in this respect, right? There's a sustainable fish, but it has to be a sustainable business, right? So, you know, it's kind of a novelty now, right? Like, you know, so there are people out there that will buy disposable forks that cost $1 a fork, right? Because they're disposable forks that are sustainable disposable forks that they can throw in a landfill and not have guilt, right? But there's only so many people that are going to buy $1 forks, right? Disposable forks for their picnic, right? So I don't know that it's been completely proven out yet in the market, and other market forces may have to take place in order for it to really pan itself out.
No, but I mean, you know, not everyone can afford a Triton, and not everyone can afford a captive bred purple tang.
Right.
But a lot of people can.
Right. There's no doubt.
And they'll make those. And they'll make those choices.
That's what I'm saying. We're saying the same thing. It's a factor of how many of those there are. I don't think there's enough supply of those things yet to know where that tap out is really, right? Because you can't easily go and buy a captive bred yellow tang, right?
on fish, I think we can safely say the following things. Once you get that price point of a captive bred fish below whatever the wild caught price point is, it's an easy adoption.
All other things equal, yeah, for sure. I agree with you. All other things equal, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt.
Well, and then so we were talking about supply chain issues, and I know that's one of the things you wanted to talk about tonight, and I'll let you lead that discussion. But simply put, if you can't get fish from overseas, but you can get fish internally, that's another leg up.
Right.
It's everything has an advantage, and it's whether the market's going to. The aquarium industry as a whole is booming right now because we were all forced to stay at home.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that.
So
yeah, it's funny. I've heard from some people out there that they're like, yeah, it's man, the fish business is hurting, and I'm like, no, people are at home and they've got extra money and they're spending it right now. And they're enjoying themselves doing it, and it makes me happy, not just because it makes business good, which does make me happy, but also because I enjoy and I'm passionate about the hobby, and I know what joy it brings other people to be able to experience that. If I can, I'll give you my 2 to 3 year thing that's really changed in my opinion. I think the promise of technology is finally coming around. Okay, so where technology before was something where the fringe used it to either entertain themselves. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It's my son, Ethan.
Hey, Ethan, what's going on, man?
Nothing, just wanted to see what he was doing.
All right, he's gonna peek over my shoulder for a little while, I guess.
Not a problem. But the whole idea before is it was there was a few people who really maximized technology, and some of it was for hobby itself to do the technology in addition to advancing what's going on. I think now we're getting enough technologically oriented companies coming together, not just ourselves, but others, to bring new stuff to bear that isn't just for folly, but it's actually for efficacy.
Well, but look at what Rich and Jamie are doing with breeding coral.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a project we're actually actively working on to cover in a future issue of Coral, if everything comes together.
Well,
and think
I'm
about
sure the
how
Apex would be part of that
much
that
easier
article, right?
that can be because of what technology offers.
Right.
So.
It wouldn't be possible.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So so let's jump into the breeding thing, because we've got a pretty good audience now, and I know. So having an aquarium, to begin with a regular, freshwater aquarium, all the way into having a more advanced marine aquarium, like the coral tank behind me, for a lot of people, even if they won't admit it, there's a God complex kind of reason to have it, right? It's like there's this control factor over being able to replicate nature, right? And what better way to replicate nature than to breed things, right? I mean, people do it with the dogs, cats, whatever it may be, and we wouldn't be honest if we didn't say it's a mountain to climb. It's a 15er or whatever, to climb to say you've done the next thing, because now I've clipped my corals, 8 times in my tank. I've grown them. It's not a challenge anymore. I can do it. So I want to get on to the next kind of challenge, and I think this happens with fish keeping, and people moving toward the breeding thing. One of 2 ways: either they just kind of think of, I need the next thing to do, or one of their fish actually becomes gravid, or it's got fish in the mouth of the bangai or whatever it may be.
Yep.
So I'm hoping this is of interest still to people who are watching the live stream. Because what I want to get out of you in this one, because we've talked about it before, is I want to know, kind of first and foremost, the person that just says, "Hey, I want to breed fish now, marine fish. What do I do? What do I tackle? What fish do I tackle? And what's the gear and the process that I need to go about to have a modicum of chance of success in doing it?" There's the question.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I have a stock 2-part answer for this.
Okay.
I did all my breeding. You mentioned that having that 15er, that Everest. I had that when I was a kid. I wanted to breed something no one had ever bred in the world, and I accomplished that, a little over 12 years ago. But
you were a kid 12 years ago? Liar.
Oxymanocanthus longarostris. That was 2008. So yeah, 12 years ago.
And you were a kid? You weren't a kid 12 years ago?
No. But I had that all the way growing up.
Okay,
That was
all
in
right,
the back of my head.
Just want to be sure. I'm looking to call you. I'm looking at the beard and I'm going, no way.
No.
Okay.
No, but breeding. You hit on so many things. Like you look at the freshwater hobby. The clubs in the freshwater hobby revolve around breeding and exchanging fish.
Because there ain't anything else to do. You're not growing corals.
Breeders Award program. You get a fish. You learn how to keep it. You
Right.
breed it successfully. You pass it off to the other people in the club, and you get the next fish, and you try that one. So on the marine side, what it was for me, I always had that fascination. But I started off, and I still encourage a lot of people who want to just dabble, just setting up your tank to facilitate the possibility of spawning and breeding. So like, you have that Bellis angel I see swimming around behind you. How many do you have in your tank?
Only one. Only a female.
So you need another one.
Well, usually that's how it works.
You can't get it. Yeah, they're not
I think that's
parthenogenic,
I think that's like breeding 101, right?
It is, but we look at how we set up our reef tanks. We get a fish like that, we get one.
But that's not an easy one. That's not an easy one to gain success on right out of the gate.
Well, no, but part of, a good example, Frank Watruba here in Duluth has a 300-gallon tank in his basement, and he had a couple different species of Anthias and a couple different types of angels, and he had them in pairs and groups. And I remember we were sitting there one evening, and I just said, do they ever spawn? Do they ever do anything? He's like, no, they never do that. And I said, let's just sit here a little while. And as the lights started coming down, all of a sudden the fish are whacking at food and stuff, and he didn't feed anything.
Right.
The Anthias spawned.
Yeah, they do that in my tank.
Then
all the time,
the other Anthias spawned, and then the angelfish spawned, and all of a sudden, that light clicks off, and oh wow! And even if you are not going to rear anything, even if you're not even going to try, it's just natural behavior, and it's another dimension of fish keeping.
Very good point.
I came from an era where one angelfish per species per tank, and that was it. And well, you're never going to ever breed anything. And I remember being in my late teens, and a guy comes in, I've got my 2 cherub fish, and they're spawning every night. And I'm like, no, they're not. Who sold you 2 cherub fish? And that's what was happening. But rearing that is a big technological leap. But since all the breeders have been so transparent, that's been an ethic that I think is kind of stuck. The basic know-how of how to breed something like a pygmy angel is out there. The materials are out there. Someone could do it. It's not easy. But clownfish are the guppy.
Okay.
So you want to start breeding something, you get a pair of clownfish. They are the guppy.
That's easier than the bangais?
I would say so, and I would say that you'll learn a little more. Bangais are deceivingly simple, and I learned that on my own. But also, everyone you have luck and you don't think about it, and they show up in your tank. And it's interesting when you just don't try. It tends to work better than when you're really trying to do it intensively. There's all sorts of pitfalls to that, and the fish will get burned out really fast. They only spawn for their active reproductive life cycle is only about 1.5 years, 2 years, and they're done. It's a short-lived fish, so they burn out fast if you're not swapping and rotating fish around to give the males time to recover after mouth brooding for 3 weeks. They'll pick up another clutch, but then they'll eat it. So part of what we were trying to do when we wrote the Bangai book back in 2012, and we're working on it before that. Part of what I was trying to figure out was, could we artificially incubate, pull the eggs at day 0? And I came really close. But we had pitfalls. I had 60 bangais show up, and every single one got BCIV and died.
Put you back on track.
Bangais
so clownfish. So bangais aren't your choice because there's other reasons, but the clownfish are the guppies.
Yeah, and it's so easy now to culture rotifers. You need a couple 5-gallon buckets. You just buy the frozen algae paste or the liquid concentrates. You don't need to culture phytoplankton. Culturing phytoplankton is an 8-hour a month chore if you're going to grow live phytoplankton. That's what's always scared
me. That's what's always scared me. Is like
think about that. What's your time worth, Terrence?
Yeah.
If I said you're going to give up 8 hours of your life to grow phytoplankton.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
That's exactly why I haven't done it.
Yeah, so you're going to buy the paste. Reef Nutrition, Reed Mariculture, they have been doing it for so long, and they benefit from serving the food fish culture industry, and we are the benefits of that knowledge.
Right.
So you can get rotifers, you can get easy phytoplankton to grow your rotifers. They've got it down to a step-by-step process, minimal work, you need a little redundancy, and you've got your food.
But you got to have like a couple of like 2-liter bottles and an air stones and all that stuff,
A couple
right?
5-gallon buckets.
Oh, 5-gallon buckets.
2 5-gallon buckets. And then a couple, you can still do clownfish in a 10-gallon tank. You won't raise a ton.
So again, let me go back here. So I need to have a couple of 5-gallon buckets. I have to have some air stones in them. I've got to have a light that goes on them to grow the phytoplankton, right?
Nope, because you're buying liquid ready to feed algae. You don't have to grow any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And that just feeds the rotifers, which I get a rotifer culture how?
From at this point, from just about anyone who's got one, you don't need a lot to start. You can order it from Reef Nutrition or Reed Mariculture, but any clownfish breeder, any fish breeder will probably have rotifers. So they're very accessible at this point.
So I'm trying to get my other. Sorry, I'm trying to.
No, that's all right.
I think I'm losing my comments here, so I have to see if I can find them on YouTube. Find some comments because our comment engine. Oh, look, there's some more coming in. So good. Good.
So,
comments are still coming in. I just thought I lost my comments for a second.
All right. So the gist of it being, the rotifers are the first food for the clownfish for the first 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
And at this point, you can start feeding the really small larval culture diets. So the TDO is the one most people are familiar with.
Okay.
That's a
so you don't have to do brine
product.
shrimp or baby brine shrimp.
You can, but it's not ideal.
Okay.
It causes problems. It's nutritionally, it's not correct.
It's insufficient nutritionally. It's not gut loaded the right way or whatever, right?
Yeah, it has to do with DHA and EPA fatty acids.
Okay.
So marine fish need DHA to develop properly, and brine shrimp don't have it, and they will take it if they get it, and they'll convert it into EPA. So much of this is just that simple 2 nutrient like tandem hoofa thing. At this point, you don't need to use brine shrimp.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. Okay, so I have these buckets. I've got my 10-gallon tank. When it comes to picking the fish, you mean if I have a good pair in my tank already, is it best to take those, or is it best to go to LiveAquaria.com and buy a pair of clownfish if I just want to start doing this? Doesn't matter?
Totally up to you.
Okay. Totally up to me. Okay. But they got to be the same one? They got to be the same
At this point, no. I mean, the clownfish, some of them will hybridize, not all of them.
Okay.
But some of them will. I mean, some of the clownfish that we're familiar with, like Sanjay's black photon, that is a hybrid.
Okay.
That's a cross between 2 different species. That's Percula and Darwin ocellaris. So they really are. When I say the clownfish or the guppies, I'm talking about all these different ocellaris.
So are they
types.
like a mule? So you can't breed the photons with another photon?
They're totally fertile.
Oh, okay.
Totally fertile.
Okay.
I mean, they're closely enough related. They have the right gene counts and chromosome counts. They are very fertile. They will interbreed freely.
So I put them I put them together, right? And and I put like a clay pot or something in there. I've seen people use. Is that or a tile from Home Depot or
tile
something?
Or clay pot. I mean, no. If you want to do it right, you don't want to be.
I
want
to do it wrong.
There's different purposes here. You have your clownfish pair in your tank and they start spawning. People want the eggs and they see the eggs, they get excited, and you have to figure out how to get those babies.
That's a whole nother thing, right? Do you recommend? That's a good question, right? So if you want to do this, do you even recommend doing that at all, right? As an experience, as opposed to like, hey, you want to breed clownfish? Just take those 2 fish, or go get a couple of 2 fish, stick them in 10-gallon, and have your experience that way. You're going to be much more successful and easy to do it.
It's easier.
Okay.
Yeah, not
because
gonna
I always
lie.
wondered that too. It's like you get a whole bunch of people say, "Well, you can do that. Just do this and do this, and at night get your flashlight and do this and do that and all of that."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, but if I'm not successful, I'm probably not going to go on with this. So.
Well, and here's the catch: how many more clownfish breeders does the world really need?
Well, we're not doing it because you're trying to like make $1. You're doing it again
No,
because
yeah,
you want to climb the 15-foot or the 15,000-foot
yeah.
mountain,
And,
right?
and
For you.
and clowns, everyone loves. My wife still loves seeing a tiny cluster of baby
Oh, the tiny
clownfish. I
cluster
mean,
of baby clownfish is just the most coolest thing ever, right? For sure.
yeah,
Um,
and hundreds of them are really cool, but then you have to find homes for them.
yeah.
So
Or feed
yeah,
them, or
that's
feed
the
them to
flip
Rich's
side.
fish.
Well, I remember getting banned from Reef Central because the thought process was, if you were going to breed marine fish, you were automatically basically commercial,
Oh,
because the only reason anyone would do it is to make money. And I said that's
interesting.
not true, but there was some right to that you have to find homes for all these animals you produce. I mean, think about breeding something like dogs.
Right.
Cool, but then they all got to find homes. So clownfish are they're the guppy, they're the most ornamental. There's all these different genes now. So for people in the reptile world, they're the ball pythons of saltwater keeping. But the difference is we can only have two in a tank usually, unless it's a really big tank. And throwing aside the whole clownfish harem type setups.
Right.
But most of the clownfish breeders, when you look at clownfish breeders, they are collectors. They have a lot of little tanks and a pair in each tank.
Hey, look at this. I gotta interrupt you, man. This is the first
Sure.
time we've ever got a super chat. We got a $5 super chat from Beyond Clownfish, hashtag Beyond Clownfish from the Fish Tank Barn. So look at this,
Well,
man.
it's interesting because one of my favorite hashtags to use is more to life than clownfish, and I use that in the breeding world every time there's a breakthrough that's not clownfish, because there's more to life than clownfish. So I said it already. How many more clownfish breeders do we need? It's a lot of fun. But if you're
Right.
successful at it, you overproduce.
But it is the
then,
first step, right? Thank you, Fish Tank Barn, by the way, for that super chat. We do appreciate it. It will buy some coffee for somebody in the office, I am sure. But it is a stepping stone, right? Because then you can go from there and go, yeah, okay, I know some of these basic things, right? And I can move on to the next thing that's out there.
So the other one, and I have to interject, the better one to maybe start with, if you want to have a little bit, clownfish are still like so elementally easy at this point. If instead you do something like the fang blennies, the Meacanthus, they will get spawning quicker. The big problem with clownfish we didn't talk about is they can take 2 to 3 years to mature. So if you buy just a little pair and wait for them to turn into a male and a female, you might be waiting 2 or 3 years.
Right.
If you get some fang blennies, you might only be waiting a few months. You get a half dozen of them, put them in a 30-gallon tank. And hopefully you've got a male and a female in there,
So
and you'll get
fang
spawning.
blennies are your number two.
Yeah, fang blennies, or even the Red Sea dottybacks. So the
Okay.
Friedmanis, the Arabian dottybacks, those are nice.
So AJ,
they're just,
AJ, I'm going to interrupt you. AJ Alheit said, what did you mean to do this or that? I need steps. So I don't want to get all through all the steps here because it would, it'd be long and drawn out. But what I would like to be able to give people is a resource, right? Can you give one particular resource that would be for the clownfish breeding to get them started to, it's your first model, Estes model rocket. Where do you go to get that? Oh, now what? You're pimping your book now?
It's not my book.
Oh, good. Okay. I was like, come on, man.
Wilkerson's
You're a marketer. So who's the? I can't see the whole thing. Where's the author?
So this is Joyce Wilkerson.
Okay.
Joyce T. Wilkerson. She passed away. She's no longer with us. But this is still, if you can find this book, this is still relevant. It's from, I don't know, the early 2000s, I think.
Okay.
But this book, and then, where is it? Wittenrich's book.
Oh, Wittenrich, yeah. Man,
Yeah.
I've seen some talks by Wittenrich that I just loved, man. He did a thing on like these ugly dragonettes from Florida in 2011 Magna. That was just awesome. Okay, cool.
Wittenrich's book. So that's the thing. You get a book before you even do this. Get a book on the subject and read. We talk about so many people back into breeding because their fish spawn in their tank and they want to raise them.
Matthew Duarte says that's a $500 book.
What?
Matthew Duarte said this is a $500 book, one of those that you just showed. I don't know which one.
Oh, yeah. Wilkerson's book goes up and down depending on availability. I think you can get a digital copy, though.
I was just going to say, somebody's got to digitize it somewhere.
Yeah. No, it was Wilkerson's book at one point was a $400 or $500 book. I haven't looked for it recently. I'm lucky to have a copy.
It's probably on the dark web.
there are I mean, but that's the thing. You can find probably a half dozen Clownfish 101 step-by-step online. It's almost pointless for me. It's like,
sure, but I mean, somebody wants a direction, right? Because there's so much bad information. So I like the book idea because it's been vetted and it's gone through, and somebody like yourself is recommending it for sure. Derek says it's $20 on Amazon. So I guess
there you go. It was 400 at one point. I remember that and being like, holy cow, can I find a few more copies?
Okay, so here's a follow-up on the breeding thing, okay? So now, knowing what you know, right, obviously, when you did all the breeding stuff that you've done over time, and people like Karen Britton and others have done it, many times, this isn't, looking down, but you're doing it on a budget, right? You don't have the money to invest in all the technology like the Neptune stuff and all of these things, right? Because it's just not feasible, right? It's not in your budget all the time. I mean, come on, let's be honest, right?
I have a couple Neptune systems running here, so no, it's affordable. I mean,
I get it, but I'm saying in general.
But I mean, it's interesting. The fish breeding side of it is, I like to say, it's an art and a science. There's a bit of intuition to it. That you might do the same thing 5 times and it works 50% of the time, and the scientist in you hasn't quite figured out yet what it is.
No, I understand, but I'm getting to my question here,
Sure.
Which is I don't believe, for the most part, because there is a scale thing when you're doing it more as, let's say, a business or from science or what have you. There's a scale thing that happens that makes it economically unfeasible many times to apply the technology that you might otherwise do. Okay? So the question I'm going to give to you is, many of the people on this live stream, they already have access to this technology. They're not going to do it on that kind of scale. So how can they apply the technology that they have in a way that advances or enhances what they're doing? For instance, okay, an example that I might give is there this is just a complete hypothetical, right? It's probably completely bogus, but cycling temperature, right? So like off time temperature from moon cycles, we change it from 78 to 82 degrees. And it's not something that you have to do, but if you're able to do this thing, it allows you to have a 20% advantage or a 30% advantage, right?
I think we know there are some fish that are seasonal. Look downs, perfect example. They're seasonal spawners. So if someone like Pro Aquatics could cycle their broodstock to offset and have broodstock maturing and coming into season different times of the year, it could even out production of captive bred look downs, for example. Some of these other fish, they spawn all the time.
Think about it like this, right? Think about like pH, right? If you could manipulate pH in the water for a particular fish, maybe it makes a difference or it doesn't make a difference. And because you have the automation available, you can change the pH, which may be affected by seasonal changes or other things normally in the wild. But now that you've got the automation on it, you can simulate that change. That's just another potential example.
There are freshwater fish that will mature into different sexes depending on pH or temperature.
Okay.
So there are certain scenarios like that. I don't have a specific one to say like, hey, this is going to fix the problem with Royal Grama. Most of the time, I think the bigger problem is not getting the fish to spawn. It's getting healthy larvae and then figuring and keeping them alive long enough.
Well, that said, don't you think that is also? I mean, that also has an element of this to it. I guess what I'm getting at is that
usually it's diet.
Yeah, the diet is certainly, there's no doubt, diet is probably the largest thing. I guess what I'm trying to suss out here is, because a lot hasn't necessarily been done in these things, you don't know what you don't know, right?
True.
And
Yep.
and some of the and because of the scale and because of the cost and also because of let's face it, there's a lot of Luddites doing this kind of stuff. I mean, come on, let's face it. There are people that want to pour stuff in, and they've been around for a long time. They're just not into that kind of thing. And so I just wonder how much of this technology could be possibly uncovered by people on a stream like this who have access to the technology and who have an interest in doing what you've done, and their application therein uncovers some of these things.
I don't have a better answer for you, Terrence.
Yeah. Okay. It's just it's a pondering kind of thing because it's because there is such a because the ability to manipulate the environment now in a marine aquarium is so unbelievable. From the
see for me, that's where the coral breeding happens. That's where we're going to see. I really think that's where you're going to see that happen and see those benefits, because a lot of these fish, we can get them to spawn without just treat them good. Most fish, I mean, freshwater fish have a lot of cues. In the saltwater thing, it's either seasonal or it's moonlight. Those are the big ones that we know about at this point, and it's been studied for 50 or 60 years. Ocean's pretty stable, but a lot of the temperature fluctuations and pH fluctuations.
Getting to breed them, yeah, for sure. To get them to go
freshwater.
off. Yeah, to get them to go off, but I know it's the rearing part that is the tough part. That when I watch these talks that you guys give, it's where the things drop off, right? So it's like, oh, we made it to stage whatever. I don't know. In racing, it's P1 to P12, but I don't no, what it is. What do you call it in breeding?
Well, that's instars for crustacean, but yeah, it's,
okay.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, I think I think so much of this is really about foods and the environment. You're not wrong to say it's the larval rearing environment. Wit and Rich really got me thinking about it differently. So one of the things we talked about, I said you can rear clownfish in a 10-gallon tank that has to be blacked out. I didn't mention that, but the hobby moved to what we call BRTs, black round tubs.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the reason is it's round. There's no corners. Yeah. It's black. The light only comes in from above. And then Wit and Rich really got me thinking about what he called gradients of light and gradients of flow. And so basically, anyone who's a trout fisherman will understand what I'm talking about right away. The larval fish in the rearing environment will move to the spot in the tank that has the right flow and has the right light to facilitate successful feeding. So a lot of times the way we try to set up a rearing tank when we don't know what we're doing is we try to create a gradient of light, so from light to dark, and a gradient of flow. So areas that have heavier circulation and then areas where it's a little calmer. And I've seen it happen in my own systems. There's all these different interplay of light and the algae that's in the water and the prey density and the flow. But those larvae all tend to huddle together. They could have 20 gallons to sit in.
Right, of course.
And they'll all be in this one spot because that's the right spot at the moment. So you kind of circumvent trying to create this homogeneous environment, and you let the fish tell you what they want and go where they want. And that's where the art comes in.
So, give the viewers here kind of an idea of what's the likelihood of success, right? So, like the average guy who knows how to keep an aquarium, moderately successfully, right? Decides he's going to go breed his clownfish from his tank or breed them, go get a pair, or whatever. What's the likelihood he's going to have success? Round 1 to round 5. What do you think?
Well, for me, I think it was my third one. I had some babies, and by 8, I got pretty good at it. So clownfish spawn every couple weeks. Some are a little more stretched out. And I don't ever consider myself, I am not the world's best clownfish breeder. I'm not even in the top 20. There are so many people who are so better at it than me. So I wouldn't say, come talk to me about breeding clownfish. But yeah, I mean, if you can follow the step-by-step instructions, clownfish is easy enough that anyone could do it.
Now I'm going to give a hint, since this hobby, like it or not, is majority male, right? And like it or not, it's generally has significant others involved in it. And like it or not, they're not all super excited like my wife about having an aquarium in their house. So I'm going to give you guys a little tip, okay? If you want to get, and you can call it sexist or whatever else you want. It's fine. I'll own it, okay? But if you
I'm going to just...
Yeah, look at you, Wuss. You know what I'm talking about because you mentioned your wife, okay? So the fact is, okay, if you want to get them interested and want to get them behind some of this stuff, you will never see women light up more, okay, than when there are little baby clownfish involved or there's a brood in an aquarium or whatever. Look, it's natural. It's a natural thing. It's, it's the motherly thing. And I could tell you, anytime I had, my bang guys had a brood in their mouth, and it was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. Oh, it's like, that's awesome, right? So if you need to get, them behind the aquarium, go out and maybe do this.
The kids like seeing the clownfish eggs in the tank.
Oh,
I don't
amazing.
even pull lightning maroon eggs, but it's it's there. It's cool. Yeah, or even just we have
firemouth
cichlids.
You know, they're being fanned by the male. You know, it's like,
and it starts all these discussions with my kids about reproduction and sex and all these
it's
other
really
topics.
good. I mean, think about COVID now and all the homeschooling and everything else. I think that's also driving the business quite a bit, right? It's like, okay, we're going to be home, we're not going to the movies, and we need something, STEM for the kids, and
perfect.
the smart dad or mom goes, yeah, I've been wanting to get an aquarium. Yeah, this is great for the kids, and it's educational.
We talk. One of the biggest coral issues I want to do is a tanks in the classroom, because there's so many schools around the country that have pushed marine science and aquarium keeping into their classroom.
Right.
Well, now we got to bring it home.
Yeah, we got to bring it home. So John Tolbert says, or when you buy them jewelry or a new Louis Vuitton purse. So that's for sure out there. You guys put some questions into here so we can, so we can get them here. AJ Hate asks you again. Have you ever bred angels? I'm assuming he's meaning saltwater. What's the likelihood of one to succeed doing that?
A lot harder. AJ.
How about a multi-bar?
So it's been done, not by me. I tried. I tried to get the bird stock a couple times.
So if you guys haven't seen what a multi-bar angel is, go out and Google it, because you will then all of a sudden fall in love. Everybody loves I call it the colorblind poor man's peppermint angel. So
I like monochrome fish. I don't know how many pictures
I do
people
too.
can see here,
I like stripes. I like stripes. I think that they add this whole new dynamic to the color of everything that's going on in the tank to mix things up. That's why I have the Heniochus in here right now. But okay, so breeding angelfish. So clearly there's a few different genus of angelfish that are I think incredibly different in terms of their breeding or breeding capabilities, right?
So home hobbyists, the two genera that home hobbyists should look at is the centipede, and then paracentripede or centripyge if you prefer, and then the genicanthus or genicanthus, however you prefer to say that.
As far as common ones, one of those is like your coral beauty type. Is that one of them?
Coral beauty,
right?
Coral beauty. I mean, think about it. I think at this point, most of the commercial breeders have produced a pygmy angel,
right?
At least one in-house. They may have done it just more experimentally, or they've done it with the intention to commercialize it. Like Biota has really brought coral beauties to the market, and ORA had 3 different types of pygmies when I was down for Global, the last show I went to.
Awesome.
So AJ, this is perfect. The one that I love is the pygmy centripyge argy, the cherub fish, because it's so small, and it's relatively affordable. So if you can get your hands on 2 really small ones, inch and a quarter, and one that's bigger, and you have a reasonable size tank, let's just say 30 to 55, maybe larger is fine.
Do they eat coral?
No, they really don't. I kept them with SPS and all sorts of stuff. They're one of the most benign. Flamebacks would be another one. It's almost the identical fish. But that little subgenus of pygmy angels, that little group is so small that I was spawning them. I had a harem of 4, male and 3 females in a 24-gallon nanocube, and they were spawning every night.
Oh, great.
So from that would be just the perfect species to target, because it's cheap, it's easily accessible, it's really small, so it's manageable. And then the big headache with angels is that they require parvocalanus copepods. It's a proven first feed. It may not be the only one, but unlike rotifers, you can't just throw algae paste at them and grow them. And you need a lot of parvocalanus. So you might have your angel bird stock in a 30-gallon tank, and you might need 200 gallons of parvocalanus copepods to feed them. That's the problem.
Okay.
But people are working on that. People are looking, well, is there other copepods we can use? Or are there ways we can more intensively culture this copepod? But that is the biggest problem. And that's why I look at, when I go back, I was able to spawn them and hatch them. And I was never able to get them to feed because I did not culture parvocalanus copepods. So I could enjoy the spawning. I could learn how to harvest them. I could watch them hatch and see that. And that was really cool, but I was limited. That was as far as I was ever going to get. as a hobbyist because I didn't have the tools I needed. So the tools you need are T-ISO, live algae, has to be live.
Okay.
And then you need the parvocalanus. So you are now obligating yourself to culture phytoplankton and to culture a copepod that's more difficult to culture.
It's a project.
So it's a project. You're going to dedicate.
Is it the same for Genicanthus?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that's, I mean, now you're really into a project, definitely into a project.
Yeah.
So I got a few more questions here. We're going to try to make the answers quick so we can get to the next topic. Go ahead.
You could step one back from that and look at mandarins.
Okay.
Green or target, probably target. Target is the easiest, the Picturatus.
Right.
If you wanted to try a pelagic spawner that we are seeing more and more people have success with, it's mandarins.
Okay.
I was spawning them. I might have had them settle out and didn't realize they did, and so I threw them out because they're tiny. They settle out 16 to 18 days. They don't have a 60-day larval cycle.
Right.
It can be reared on rotifers alone. You just won't rear many, and they won't be that great. But if you can pulse any of the more easily raised copepods into the mix, like Tisbe, Apocyclops, might be beneficial. Any of these copepods you can culture and size sort and pulse into the mix will increase the success with any of the fish you're doing.
Okay, so this is gonna be like a speed round, okay?
All right.
On these questions, okay? So first one, and this is a good one because it relates to me because I just recently bought one of these. Ichta yo stuff, Ichtha yo stuff, okay?
Ichthyo stuff. Ichthyo stuff.
Ichtha yo stuff. There we go. When you breed Bangai, do you have to have an urchin?
No.
Do not have to have an urchin. So I bought a long spine urchin because something else must have ate all of mine when they came out. Because they went to the end, so I got one because you know what? I've seen them.
They're cool.
I've seen them in the urchins, you know, living in there. So I was like, that's cool. Okay.
So here it is. Take that reef epoxy you mix up to put your corals down. Mix up a ball of it. Put a bunch of black cable ties into it. Let it harden.
There you go. It's kind of ugly though. I'd rather have an urchin. Okay. Is there anything we do in reef keeping to limit breeding, like ozone or UV? So if I'm trying to have my clownfish breed in my main tank, will ozone or UV affect that?
No. But filtration and water circulation guarantees that the larval fish that hatch or the eggs spawn in your tank, they're wiped out. You have to,
okay, live larva or frozen? Okay. I don't know what the question is with that. Let's see. Oh, here it is.
Live algae or frozen? I would say live is better to some extent, but the frozen concentrates are harvested at the right thing. So if you can use frozen algae, it's probably better.
Okay. What fish would you breed if you could that currently has not been bred successfully in captivity? That's a good question.
Okay.
That's going to be the last breeding question, and we're going to move on to something else.
So I talked about it at MACNA 2 years ago, 2018. Corallivore butterflies. I still have that pair of Melapterus with the Trifasciatus. That is my current breeding project. And as I kind of said on stage, it was a little bit of a cop-out because I've got 2 kids, took over ownership of one of the magazines with Amazonas with a couple partners. I'm really busy. I was like, this is a broodstock project. It will take me years to figure out how to keep the broodstock alive, and then I'll get to the spawning. And so I bought myself time. I could still call myself a breeder without having to worry about all the stuff.
And you got to miss one MACNA now, so you don't even have to own up to it for a year.
But the other one I tried was the sister species to the longnose filefish. So the Red Sea longnose filefish, which is Oxymanacanthus hali. And so I haven't really talked about that much, but after we moved to Duluth, I switched gears from longnose files or harlequin files to that Red Sea species. I got eggs. I got them to hatch. That was it. So that's lingering out there. But at this point, I want to go back and do the harlequins again because no one else has done it still. So
there you go. And there you have it. Okay, so
round 2.
Yeah. So you run Mini Waters, okay, which is a great name, by the way. Mini Waters. I like that.
Thank you. Minnesota Waters, small.
Yeah, it's a good name. It's a good name. It's catchy. So you normally, when things are normal, you're selling what at Mini Waters? What's your top things that you generally do?
So Mini Waters was kind of the whole outgrowth of producing fish and needing to find them homes.
Right.
So lightning maroons, definitely when we introduced those after the initial push, was selling lightning maroons a lot. So anything we breed here is fair game to show up at Mini Waters.
It's
But
retail,
it
right?
also,
It is available at
what?
retail. It's not just wholesale, right? It's retail as
Yeah,
well.
so I focus primarily wholesale, and I'm
Right.
happy to talk very openly about Mini Waters because it's not my primary source of income. If it makes no money, that's totally fine. So it's a side business. It really is. And I actually added retail for two reasons. It was we'd have the lightning maroons on the wholesale list for like $250. Now this is back when they were selling for $1,000.
Right.
And I'm offering them to stores for $250 or $100 and a quarter, and the stores aren't buying them. But I have people emailing me constantly saying, "Well, can I get them?" And at some point, I just had to say, "Yeah, I'll sell them direct." The stores had their shot.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's sometimes very hard to put money in people's wallets. It's crazy, but it does happen.
So it absolutely does happen. I see it a lot as a wholesale business.
Yeah.
We were talking about that yesterday too. So yeah, I kind of did that, and I went to all my wholesale customers and said, "I'm doing this. I'm gonna margin the fish in such a way that you should be able to undercut me, and be very happy, making a really good profit. I'm gonna be expensive," and I still sold all those lightning maroons at retail.
Oh, there you
End
go.
of story.
There you go.
So and
so now you're doing plants and other things now too, right? So you're doing plants and frogs, and aren't you doing a whole bunch of different things?
Yes, in freshwater fish. I'm a hobbyist, all salinities. A lot of my clownfish genetics understanding came from breeding freshwater angelfish. So having the fish room, having the business is in part a service to having the magazines. Imagine if I was a guy publishing aquarium magazines but wasn't keeping fish.
Sure. No, I get it. It's just like it's like me with the aquarium and the Apex stuff. Yeah, it's like you have it. So how's COVID affecting all of that? Is it doing, is it
I shut it down. I mean, I effectively just said, and I just had a good email exchange this afternoon with one of my suppliers. And I just sent a simple, quick message. "Hey, can I get fish from you yet?" Because I'm in Duluth, Minnesota, which means that I'm 2 hours south of Canada. Winter lasts 6 months out of the year. There's a good 4 months of the year I can't ship. I won't ship. It's not worth it. If I wanted to be in the livestock business full time, this is absolutely probably the worst place to be.
Yeah,
I am
right.
I am a 5-hour round trip to the nearest large metro, which is the Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the only way I could get fish from a general supplier in Florida, they would have to send them to the Twin Cities. I'd have to make a 5-hour round trip, and I realized
it's not your main business, right? So this is why I get you. So you're just gonna wait. Yeah. You're gonna wait out the COVID thing and then dial it back up.
I'm selling leftovers from last year,
right.
And the plants grow. Right before this, I was dropping off a plant order. No big deal. But yeah, I have the luxury of being able to just say the shipping costs tripled to quadrupled. I can't get shipments here except from a couple places. I just don't need to.
It's interesting because some businesses are clearly doing really well. Some businesses in this industry are doing.
Keep coming.
Yeah, the inquiries are there. Yeah, exactly. It's just not feasible. Which it's kind of a segue into another thing. Do you recently we heard that LiveAquaria is changing hands yet again. Yes. I don't even know the lineage of that. What was the original lineage? Do you know?
So I published it in a quick blog post for Coral, but basically Kevin Cohen has been with it from the get-go.
What was the original company name? Do you remember? It was something like
so there was this Flying Fish Express.
Flying Fish Express.
That's floated out there, but Kevin kind of said, no, it's not really exactly how it was. They started LiveAquaria. It went to Rhinelander. It was there for a number of years, and really the important points to know. And I'm not speaking for Petco or Kevin or LiveAquaria.
Sure. No, but we're all wondering, right? And we gave him the opportunity to come on and talk about this just so everybody knows. And he's got his own reasons, maybe Petco or whatever. But it is news, and it is something that is interesting, and it's relevant to what we're talking about.
So Petco, Race Foster and Marty Smith, I think those are their names, retired. Foster and Smith retired.
Right.
And when you've got this really big successful business, there are only so many people who have the pockets to buy it.
Right.
Or you got to try to turn it over to the employees and see if you can make that work, or you're just going to close. if your family doesn't want to run it, or so pretty much Petco bought it.
Right.
And I
right.
remember people freaking out because it was Petco.
Right. Right.
And I was like, what is this going to do?
Right.
I consider Kevin one of the most influential aquarists of our time.
100% agree.
He can do stuff with fish that I can't dream of.
Yeah, it's amazing knowledge base. Everything. I've had him on the program before as well, and no doubt. So they they picked it up. And
when this happened, I was like, are you going to be okay? And I have not shopped with LiveAquaria very much since Petco took it over. They used to be one of my go-tos. I was religiously watching that Divers Den email every place. It's a great place to get brood stock.
Sure.
To get fish you're not going to find anywhere else.
And they're well taken care of. All of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, so I was worried, but I think for the most part, I think everything has kind of stayed even keel, and they were allowed to operate autonomously and do what they do best. And then I want to say it was last year, Petco shut down Dr. Foster and Smith.
Yeah, the Dr. Foster Smith, and they left the LiveAquaria thing, still going.
Yeah, and LiveAquaria stayed online, and then you just recently learned that LiveAquaria has been purchased by another company.
So do you think that do you think the COVID thing and the way that it's affected you and your online business and shipping and other things like that, they're up in the middle of nowhere too, right? So do you think that plays a role also for them? I have no idea what they're doing in terms of sales or anything like that, but I would think that would play a similar problem or role, wouldn't it?
Well, so the big thing for a small company like me, I can't ship a box of fish to you in California for less than it's $90. It's like, so if someone wants to order one fish
from the shippers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that certainly plays into it, but it's the inbound stuff too that you're talking about. So there's still, being able to source and bring, I can tell you from DeYoung, right, who I talk to all the time, right? Yeah. Especially in the beginning months of this, they were having the same kinds of problems just getting flights in from into the Netherlands and into London and whatnot, let alone coming into Rhinelander. So that's why that was there. But it remains to be seen what's going to happen with this.
But they're a much bigger enterprise, so I can see where for me it's unrealistic to say I'm going to spend triple the money to have the air freight or to have it brought direct to my door because I can't do air cargo. Whereas they can say, well, we can afford, and I have no idea.
Sure, no, I know. It's speculation. I get it.
But, it's really easy. Okay, let's get a truck, and you're going to drive down to Milwaukee or Chicago to bring the fish back here.
Yeah,
there are a lot of companies
Jason
that do
Langer,
that.
who we know from up there, Jason Langer says, we love the middle of nowhere. But, Matt Duarte says Petco bought it for access to that client list and competition elimination. Okay. Derek says, only buy my fish from LiveAquaria Divers Den. And other people did say, yeah, that is a Mexican Coke that I was drinking. So that's good. So anyway, the only thing I found out on the whole thing is it does look, because they have made some changes to their website, it does look like the Tropical Fish International and their parent company out of Sri Lanka or wherever it is has maybe made the purchase out of there. And, there's not much official going on. But that's what it looks like from the records online. And, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of a sideways deal to give, fish through them to Petco. I think they already have some sort of a deal with Petco anyway. But it remains to be seen how this will all play out, in the world of online fish, because we all love, Divers Den and LiveAquaria and everything. So I'm hoping and wishing for the best for these guys to make a good run at it.
So I want to add in that Rhinelander is about 3.5 hours east of us here. So, when we've brought people into the club to speak here, we will oftentimes try to make a side trip over to Rhinelander, spend a day over there, see Kevin. So I've been over to that facility a few times. And Kevin has always been exceptionally open with me, which I appreciate. And the things he's taught me, seeing how those fish are packed, knowing what goes into how they pack and everything that they're doing there. If there's anyone that's going to be able to get through all these issues successfully, it's them. And I'm really pleased to see that Kevin is listed as one of the owners now, a partner of some sort. You can look at the release for the official language of
yeah,
that. But
I don't remember exactly how it's put, but yeah, there's some stake in the business and whatnot. So
stakeholder, I think that's the actual
yeah,
word used,
yeah. So anyway, we'll see where this goes, and I can't wait to get more formal information. We'll have him here on the program and talk fish and everything else like we've done before, and he'll tell us how it's all going down. But I got to wrap it up now, Matt. We've hit our little hour mark, a little bit more, but that's okay. I really appreciate having you on Let's Talk Reef again. There's always good insight that you have for everybody here. Hope all of you viewers out there like that we're not just talking about all the automation stuff. We try to do this every other week, so in 2 weeks from now, it'll be another Let's Talk Reef. A week from now, we'll try to do something else good for Control Freak Wednesday, hopefully on Wednesday. And again, thank you, Matt. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And,
thank you very much.
Until next time, enjoy those fish, guys, and we'll see you out there. Be safe.